So I just finished the Philosophy Bites podcast with Dan Sperber on the Enigma of Reason. On this podcast, we talked about, obviously about the Enigma of Reason, being that we think of reason as driving us to the truth, but Dan was arguing that it doesn't necessarily bring us to the truth, just a better understanding of knowledge. It's a means of correcting miscommunication, errors in our communication between each other, and this is kind of the reason how reasoning evolved, or why we possess it, is the view that communication is vital to the survival of our species, and that it came about, reasoning came about as a means of dealing with miscommunication, which is a pretty good argument. He talked about how we think of ourselves as rational reasoning creatures, we humans are, but the truth is that we're really terrible actually at reasoning. We apply logic and we make terrible logical errors and fallacies all the time. We actually rely more heavily on intuition, which is basically, we take, I guess it's more of, if I could describe intuition, it'd be more like pattern recognition, or maybe like fuzzy logic. In other words, we see things and we make assumptions. You go outside, you see there's clouds in the sky, we just go ahead and assume it's going to rain, even though it might not rain. You could say that's reasoning, but reasoning, I guess, we view it as more definitive, that either yes, it will or will not rain. And he made some points that we use reasoning in dialogue with one another to, I guess, chisel away at using arguments to help us come up with better conclusions. He said, in scientists and philosophers, they do this all the time by communicating with one another. They argue against each other to help refine an ideology or a viewpoint or perspective, or I guess our conclusions. At the same time, if you come in to an argument with predefined biases, you'll just argue for those conclusion, and that you'll end up creating polarization rather than convergence, is what he described it, which is just unity, in other words. So anyways, I thought it was a good topic, that reasoning, I thought that was an interesting point, that reasoning doesn't necessarily bring us to the truth, it just tries to eliminate errors in our communication, which is basically the takeaway that I got from it, which was an interesting thought. So there's something to think about.